Lovely.
Well,
over to you.
Can I start without further ado?
Yes, that would be brilliant.
Excellent. I'm just going to put my camera on. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to run through a very quick presentation of 6 slides on, first of all, showing you how we implemented live chat. So give you a bit of the history, and then how we used that as we went into lockdown and beyond, and focusing on, of course, how we increase the efficiency, because that's what everyone focuses on these days, and we do too. So our journey started back in a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, when we realized we really needed a digital channel offering for how especially our students could contact us on the service desk. We were very analog and manual back in the day, probably like many service desks, with 4 offerings, which are telephony, we have email, we have self-service, and we had a lot of walk-ins at the time as well. So what we really wanted to do was to try and offer something more digital. So some of the considerations we had in the process was interoperability. So what was the tool that we're bringing in? What will it offer us? How will it operate with all the rest of our systems? Should we go with a cloud service, or should we install something on premise? And how do we potentially combine? We obviously realized at the time that if you have a chat element, there is an opportunity here, because we do that with telephony. How do you combine that with a remote access element as well? A really important point for us was to ensure that whatever channel we offered, we could offer as a complete 24/7, 365 service in full parallel with any other service that we were running. So one of the key things, the key takeaways we'd taken from our research with speaking to other universities was the fact that if you launch a new channel and you only do it, say, 10 till 2, people will very quickly just carry on using the existing tools because they know they're 24/7. They don't have to think about when a tool is available and when it's not. It needs to be there for them on par with the other services that you've got. I think that was a really important thing for us to start out with. We quickly decided, of course, that live chat was the way to go. So as you do, you set up an implementation plan. We decided to go with the cloud service. We went with Beyond Trust, as you can see there. We configured the live chat settings, which was actually comparatively easy. We're backing up our settings data. We're not backing up the chat data. What we do is we do that through logging the ticket. And we make sure we're currently using Ivanti, so it's quite an antiquated system by now. But we're making sure we had that configured optimally so that we could report on the fact that this had come in via chat. So the source is important, and also making sure that we had quick tickets. So the agents were feeling comfortable about using the new method of contact. And just linking back to the conversation before, or the comment before about making sure we had full 24/7, 365 concurrency of this new service, we started out conversations with Norman, the out of hours support service that many of you probably use, very early on, to make sure that we were linking in with whatever they had. And it turned out, just at the time, I think we were only the 2nd university to start using their chat service, but we could quickly integrate that so that it's to our end user, it's a seamless service. They click on the same button, and we've just got a bit of JavaScript that sits behind it that determines whether it comes to the QMUL live chat or whether it goes to the normal live chat. And it's worked really well, really well. We did some training with the service desk on how to use the tool. Obviously, it is a new way of communicating or contacting, so we had to make sure that staff were there and happy about using it. There was a bit of apprehension before we started out on the process. The staff weren't really too keen always on having to go on chat duty. It's managing change. It's making sure that you show them that this is as easy as answering a phone call. We created a rota to that effect to make sure everyone had a chance to use it. The big thing is to make sure that obviously you've got a button there available so someone can click on it. So making sure that your end users, your customers can find you and how to access the service. Reporting behind that was obviously also very important, and that links back to the fact we needed to include the source in our ticket logging. Launch was really easy, in all honesty, because we'd done all the legwork. I should also add, by the way, that this was all done as a BAU project. I think that's a very important thing that we probably experience a lot in higher education, that you want to go in and you want to implement something like this, we can quickly end up in a spiral of setting up a project, doing this, doing that, going through lots of hoops to make sure that that's implemented through a more, what can one say, a more complicated project model, for want of a better word. We were quite clear from the outset that we wanted to implement this as a team, so we just linked in with the right people to get what we needed to launch it. Obviously, we did follow all the governance processes in the university to do this, in creating a plan and making sure we stuck to the timescales and milestones and so on and so forth. But yeah, coming back to the launch, we were obviously ready with that, because installation is really easy. It's a cloud service which we'd gone for, so it just meant making sure we could link through to it. We'd done canned replies before, but also as we realized common topics were becoming apparent, we made sure that not just the service desk manager, but the team leads were able to create those canned replies, so we could slot those in. And those of you who've done this in the past will realize that these canned replies are your first step towards starting to use an AI chatbot, because rather than a human putting in those canned replies, this is where you would just have a bot triggering those. So somebody asks you, I've lost my password, for instance, and then the next thing will be, you know exactly what to say. They will have you tried resetting password, and then there's a link to SSPR, for instance. We monitored the take up of the service through reporting, again back to the source element that I mentioned before. We tried our best to drum up awareness through what we call e-bulletins within the university, adding a strapline to our emails, talking it up in meetings, and generally making sure there was buy-in from the top and down, and that this was used as the go-to channel for immediate access to the service desk. As mentioned before, some service desk staff did feel it was a challenge to go onto live chat, but I think as we went on and as the service bedded in, we overwon all those skeptics by the series of using the service, both from an analyst perspective, but also from the end user. And yeah, overall, we actually had really great feedback. People were very, very happy to use it, and the people that did use it at the time, I should mention at the outset, it wasn't a great take-up. People probably have to get used to these ways of contacting you. So I would say in the first couple of months, we probably only had about 2 or 3% of our total volume that was logged through live chat. I should say as well, as I've mentioned on here, we did go for a soft launch. So even though we did talk it up, we did want the service to bed in, not just for end users to slowly find us, but also, as mentioned before, to make sure that the service staff who felt was a bit of a challenge had a chance to get used to it and how we would work it. So into lockdown. As with most of us, we didn't have much time to really prepare, but the time we had, I think we used extremely effectively. We did a 10-day countdown, and we literally from the outside prepared to take the entire team off site. I mean, there wasn't really an option to do anything else. We made sure we provided each analyst with a laptop or a way of connecting and a mobile phone. The mobile phone will be critical because we did not have enough time to move to soft phone. So the way that we looked at providing telephony was asking people to contact us via live chat, put in their phone number, and then the agent can call you back. Interestingly enough, I don't believe that was virtually ever taken up on. People were quite happy to use the live chat element. As you can see in the picture there, we deployed, so again in those 10 days, we deployed a few people on the service desk to test the key applications that the service desk needed to use when off site through 3 different methods. Direct access, which we are still currently using. So that's if you have one of what we call our managed laptops. We need to make sure that we could connect to all the applications we use remotely, whether you're logging on through VDI, so an RDP type session, or whether you are using your personal laptop. So we can see we've got an overlap pretty much everywhere in terms of if you can't access a particular service through this tool, you can use it through that tool. Key to our preparations were, of course, making sure that we could get onto it was then called BOMGAR, Beyond Trust, that we could get access to it through the web or through a desktop icon. And as you can see there, we could pretty much cover that, whatever method we were using. We tested everything beforehand as well to make sure it had been gone through and that every analyst, regardless of their access level, could mirror the setup that you see there. And without saying, as we didn't have soft phone, we knew already that live chat was going to be our immediate support channel. So we knew we needed to make sure we pushed that to the forefront. So more work was done to ensure the live chat button was available and clear through everyone. We then go into lockdown and beyond. We made sure that the IVR on our phone line pointed to live chat. Obviously, we had to shut the phone lines down. Again, that would have the message to say, put your phone number in and contact us if you want. Otherwise, it's a case you obviously just initiate the live chat. We made sure that the chat icon and the link to the chat icon was shared wherever we could. And we made sure as well, and I think this is quite a key point, that live chat was available to users if they had a problem with their credentials, like they couldn't log in or for some other reason didn't have access to their QMUL tool to chat with us. Because every now and then you do get people who are locked out, you get people who've, for some other reason, are not able to make connection with you. You may only have your mobile phone, so we made sure that everything was tested through an Android phone, an iPhone, that you could click on the chat link and get through to us, and that was really successful as well. We used MS Teams for daily stand-ups. This was really useful in making sure that we had connection with everyone on the team. We had a feel for what was going on. We made sure that everyone was happy about the levels of calls they were getting, or chats as it is they were getting at the time. And I think this next point is quite a key one in the first line fix increase that we saw, and that is the combination of using live chat and remote access. So what we saw very quickly is that the agents could jump from conversing over an issue to directly resolving it. To us, that was really key to unlocking what we were doing at the time. So obviously everyone was based at home. We realized we had to be able to fix something without getting to it. So that combination really unlocked the success. That and the combination of the fact that you have a one-to-many relationship is what I would call it. With an ordinary telephone, as everyone will know, it's a one-to-one relationship. One agent takes one phone call. They cannot take two phone calls at the same time. Well, some people probably can, but it will be a struggle. We set every agent to be able to take 5 chats because that's what our research had shown will be the maximum. Having said that, we've seen at peak time in enrollment this year that we've had agents that took up to 12 chats at any time, which I think is an amazing achievement, that we could service so many customers with the same amount of resource or less, I should add, than we would do. We would never been able to hit our SLAs or meet our KPIs if we simply only had telephony. This is where live chat has been absolutely critical to the success of our service delivery. What really did help as well was that our colleagues realized that working from home was going to be the norm. So I think everyone realized or went through the thoughts of what are we going to do next. We went into a 3-week lockdown that was then extended, and it was extended, and people did realize, well, actually I'm going to be based at home for a little while. So colleagues understood that this whole idea of an in-person IT support would become more difficult. So they were happy to work with us. That's quite critical as well, that they understood that. So when we said, I'm going to remote access to your machine, it wasn't a case of, no, I need to have someone come to see me, because they realized that that wasn't going to be an option for obvious reasons. So yeah, it's that acceptance that remote or virtual support is permanent. It's probably also helped by the fact that people see this commercially and use it commercially. I mean, you look at the big portals like Amazon, John Lewis, Ryanair. They all push live chat. So you could argue people are used to that method of contact and resolution. The share I'm sliding here shows our first line fix and how it went up. And I should say I could go back further, but our first line fix until this period did hover around the 50% mark. So we had around half tickets that would come in, we would be able to fix on the first line, but the other half would get escalated onto other teams. But as you can see, we really smashed that through this period. And I believe our latest stats show we reached about 80% first line fix, which to me is a fantastic achievement, because it means we're happy, we can resolve the issue there and then, but also the end user's happy because they've got the service, they've got their resolution there and then. They don't have to wait. Last slide, you may be happy to know, is about the future benefits. So I'm showing a little bit more about our stats here. We did switch on telephony once we had migrated onto soft phone, which we did through the clearing period. And as you can see, people have got so used to the live chat element, it exceeds anything that we get in via telephony. And that's even if we haven't been very good at always removing the telephone number everywhere. As for the most universities, we've got our contact details everywhere, so we've had to do a bit of a scour to try and make sure we have the phone number removed and live chat put in as the main channel to contact us still here. But yeah, as you can see, live chat, second most popular contact option after email, but the most popular immediate contact option above all, really, even down to face-to-face. We get continued great customer feedback, much better feedback than what we've had over the period where we just had telephony, which is really great to see. And as you can see, we've got some of the comments here that people have given us, which just goes to show it has worked really well. What are we going to look at for the future? As Ian just hinted at and mentioned there, the whole idea of an AI chatbot is really key. We definitely see this as a way forwards. We did do some work with the Microsoft Q&A tool. The trick here is to try and link this in with our current live chat. To me, that's got to be the deal breaker for us. And also, as Ian mentioned, with all the changes and the rapid change in how we work and the use of a tool like MS Teams, we're realizing that something that links in with the way that our colleagues use Teams will be key. So we are looking to develop this further, and we're probably looking at a more holistic way of implementing something, because over the period that people have seen the popularity and the benefits of live chat in other departments in our schools, and have contacted me to find out, well, how can we do this ourselves? So there is a need here to coordinate this approach throughout, perhaps with what's termed as a concierge bot. So that will be like your front reception desk, who would then sit there, take the chat in, and then that can filter it into the different teams. That could be estates and facilities, it could be to your admissions team, or it could be to IT. So having a coordinated approach there is something that's important to us. So rather than developing things as an island, what we want to do is develop something that is coordinated and coherent with the rest of the university. That's quite key to us. And again, it's the priority on digital support channels. We do want to improve on our self-service as well. As mentioned before, we've got quite an old system with Ivanti, and hopefully we will be able to move on to a newer tool where we can really push self-service. And also the conversation is there, well, what do we do with the phone line? Yes, we have now moved to soft phone. We can offer a soft phone support channel, but is that really what we want to do? As mentioned before, that one-on-one relationship has a resource impact. If I can put an agent on and I know that they can take minimum 5 chats, I have more productivity than with an agent that just takes 1 phone call. And as we all know, if you're on the phone, people generally like to chat, where they're more to the point when they use something like live chat. I think that is basically it from me. So over to anyone if they have any questions. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks for that, Henrik. We do have a couple of questions. We have another one from Keith, and he's asked, do you plan to keep email as a support channel or move more to self-service or chat?
I would much prefer not to have email. I can guarantee you that. Hopefully with a new tool with better self-service. I think those are linked actually. You need to have a really good self-service portal if you are to consider getting rid of email. Self-service is brilliant because you can drive workflows and everything through it, but to me that needs to be in place. I don't think live chat, having a successful live chat channel, is enough to say I need to get rid of email, because people need to be able to log a query in their own time. So we have a cohort in China, for instance. We don't provide, well, Queen Mary Service Desk does not provide the live chat to them, although Norman does through the night, but we still need to be able to for those customers to contact us out of hours and get their query across. And the popularity for email there is apparent. So yes, I think absolutely I'd like to get rid of it because it's a very cumbersome way of logging tickets. As most of you know, you take emails in to like a holding pen, and then you have to decide whether it's a request or an incident. That's very resource intensive for us, and I would definitely like to get away from that. So yes, thank you.
Okay, one final question before we hand over to our final speaker. Have you seen any methods of facilitating the live chat with Teams or something to coordinate the individual requests and route to service desk staff on Teams?
Good question. So I know Q&A Maker links in with Teams. So that was the chatbot service that we'd looked at. And that was one of the reasons we looked at it, by the way. Brogger itself appears a little bit on its own at the moment, although it's really successful at what it's doing. And we can definitely testify to that. The linkage in with other tools. I spoke to them, interestingly enough, I spoke to them very early on about the fact that we wanted to link a chatbot to it, and they hadn't started development on that. Now that conversation was a while ago, so they may have done something there. But it's a really good question in that sense, because I do think that whole triangulation of offering a service and the integration in with Teams and the other tools is going to be key going forwards, especially with the embeddedness of Teams in higher education. So thank you.
Fantastic. For that. Thank you, Henrik. Thank you for your time today. Hopefully we'll see you in a little bit for the panel session.
Thank you.
Okay, our last speaker of the day is Chris Sagnon from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, whose session title is a little bit cryptic. It's simply Code for the Codeless. So I'm looking forward to hearing what